Boston Bruins have made multiple moves finishing off their season by sending a majority of the NHL's prospects down to the Calder Cup playoffs with the Providence Bruins. We're going to be talking about those moves, but also finishing off this season, going over what the Bruins have announced today from Charlie Jacobs, from Don Sweeney, and what the plan is for the draft and free agency. We're going to be breaking down everything that we got here today in all of these news outlets from today's final day of the regular season from the Boston Bruins. But before we get into it, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. We noticed that just over 70% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. But I want to say a big thank you to all of you here as well for being here for this season. Obviously, it was not the way we wanted the Boston Bruins season to go, but ultimately, we have a lot of much more important stuff coming in this year's offseason. One of the biggest in recent memory, and we're going to be having it all right here. So I do appreciate you throughout this season, but we have another story underway here now with the NHL start of the offseason. Let's get to our first screenshot here, going over the moves very quickly before we jump into Charlie Jacobs' comments. First of all, the Boston Bruins general manager Don Sweeney announced today, April 16th, the following roster transactions. The team must have assigned forward John Farinacci, who had his first NHL goal last night, Vinny Lettieri, Fabian Lysell, Fraser Minton, and defenseman Frederick Brunette to Providence, placed defenseman Ian Mitchell on waivers of purpose of also sending him down to Providence. So the Bruins cleaning house here today, sending all the prospects back down to the AHL in hopes of getting a Calder Cup down there in the AHL. But ultimately, we saw this move coming. We knew these guys were going to be up and down in this lineup, and that's what we've seen the past few weeks of this team, is sending a lot of players up from the AHL, get them a little test here to see what's going to come from next season, clear up the lineup for the AHL, and get them ready for the AHL playoffs. And it was a great decision. Ultimately, we hope they win there. I'll be keeping tabs on them here as well throughout these AHL playoffs. But let's get into Charlie Jacobs' comments. The more important thing here on the schedule right now, kind of revealing a little bit of what's going to happen here in this offseason. This is what he had to say. It's clear that we have a lot of work to do, and that work is already underway. Despite how difficult it has been to say goodbye to some of our most beloved Bruins this season, these decisions were rooted in the best interest of the future of our franchise. Together with our hockey operations leaders, we are actively preparing for the NHL draft and anticipate a top-tier selection. With more NHL draft capital in hand than we've had in recent years, we are also eager to bolster our roster throughout free agency and open the door for some of our younger prospects to take the next steps in their development. Now, this is a part of also Charlie Jacobs' comments going over the entire, thank you season for the fans and whatnot, but this is the more interesting look of this here, going over the fact that we're looking at the same hockey operations team as we currently have, and we were expecting a move today. Nothing has happened this far, and at 10 p.m. Newfoundland time, nothing seems to be going to happen today for this move. So whoever's reporting this, once again, another wrong call from them. But of course, things can still happen. But from Charlie Jacobs, it seems like these hockey operations, Don Sweeney, Cam Neely, and himself are all going to be working towards the draft and towards free agency. Now, we do have a lot of also other stuff that's going to be coming here in the offseason, but we know that the way this rebuild went here from the trade deadline until now, the end of the season, the plan was for the Boston Bruins to bring up a lot of these younger players, go work in free agency, and go to the draft. So I do have a list here of what the Bruins' more important things here heading into this offseason are. Of course, we have the number one center. That's something that the Bruins have tried to do last season, got Elias Lindholm, who ultimately was not what we expected, but at the end of the season here in these last 10 or so games, played exceptionally well. And if we can continue that into next season, that would be a very good look for a number 2, maybe 3 center for the Boston Bruins. Number 2, personally, and I've seen some people disagree with this, and I want to know what you think in the comments below, the plans for the Boston Bruins re-sign Morgan Geekie. I think that he played exceptionally well here in this offseason, during this season, and has earned himself a contract extension with the team, somewhere in the eyes of maybe a 5-year, $6 million, or a 6-year, $5 million contract. That's why I see a lot of people saying, and I think that's what I would like to see Morgan Geekie get as well. In 77 games this year, 57 points. But we cannot forget the disastrous start to the season he had, and the bounce back was very, very good and showed a lot of promise in his game after moving him up to that first line, floating around the 1 and 2, and having him this year with a 22 shooting percentage, and at age 26, going on 27 for next NHL season. He still has a lot of game left to play. He has a lot of game left to learn, and if playing with David Pastrnak, and whoever this number one center could be, whether it be Casey Middlestat, whether it be Elias Lindholm, he is in a great spot to go and work there. But back to the list of prospects decisions. We have a lot of prospects here that we're going to get into in a moment here from Bruins Cap Space on X, going over their year-end positions on the Bruins, where they are, the cap space and whatnot. And when we're looking at that, we're going to be seeing a lot of prospects, and it really does seem weird to say the Bruins have a lot of prospects. After the trade deadline, after a few of their younger guys coming up and being able to show that they can play at this level, the Bruins are going to have to make some decisions of who they want in this roster. And that's going to be a big thing to go into next season, who they could possibly trade of those prospects, who they don't think there will work out in the system. There's going to be a lot of what-ifs around that, and I'm very excited to actually see the Bruins make some decisions on that here in this offseason. And finally, of my last ones, the draft pick. We, of course, know the Bruins number 4, possible number 5, possible number 6, depending on what happens in this ladder and the rest of the games here in the regular season. That draft pick will be so important. The Bruins are able to get a center on this, but if they will choose to, is going to be something that is going to be, we're going to have to look at later on. It's going to be something that they're going to have to really take a deep dive in, who they can get in free agency in this aspect, and I'm excited to see where the draft goes as well from here. And as Charlie Jacobs said, the Bruins are already planning for that, and Don Sweeney has a chance to redeem himself here with the previous first-round picks in his tenure and who they could draft here in this year. So let me know in the comments below who you think the Bruins will, first of all, who you think they should draft, but also who you want to see up and down in the prospect rankings in the NHL next season. And that's what we're going to get into right now. As we move into the offseason projections from the cap space, as you see there on the graphic, the Bruins cap space on X showing this one here. Their stuff is very, very good. Do recommend a good follow on X if you want to keep up to date with all of the Bruins cap space things here in this offseason, because we're going to see a lot of moves. But as the roster looks like next year, there are quite a bit of free agents. The centers are pretty good. We're pretty deep on them, but the true number one center is still yet to be seen. Morgan Geekie, going to be re-signed, should definitely be re-signed, but we're missing quite a few wingers there. And of course, Marat Huznatinov, recently acquired from the Minnesota Wild at the trade deadline. Someone I think is certainly going to be in this lineup next year, has proven to be a very, very solid player. John Beecher, there's a lot of questions surrounding him. Jacob Lauko, once again, I think someone that will also still be re-signed. The Bruins love him, of course. It's two-time Bruin coming in that trade with Huznatinov for Justin Brazeau, but a number 2 winger is something that the Bruins are seriously going to need to get as well. Should have been on, and probably could have been on this list here, of course, as the number 1 center. We're going to have to take a look at a number 2 winger as well, but that will be something that we're going to touch on just a little bit here in a moment as well when it does come down to the free agents and who could be possibly in and out of this lineup when it comes to free agency and possible RFAs via trade here in this year. But the defense has been looking very solid. I want to see Lohrei and Jokiharju back on this lineup next year. Jokiharju and Zadorov pairing was surprisingly very, very, very good to end the season. I'm very happy with the way that went out. And Mason Lohrei, once again, deserving of a contract. I'm expecting this defense to remain pretty similar to this year. But as we move down to the AHL very quickly before we go into the free agents, when we're looking at this, we have a lot of prospects down here that possibly could make this lineup next year and also have been able to show what they're made of this season. And maybe it be one game, maybe be 2, maybe be a little tenure here like Lysell has had at the end of the season. A lot of these guys could be moving up to the NHL next season. If not, we may potentially see some trades from Merkulov and Lysell, both of those guys who are surrounded by uncertainty with the Bruins here when it does come down to free agency. But let's move into free agency. Speaking of it, looking over a few of the free agents here. This is on Spot Trek, like pretty much right in the middle of these players here. We know there's Marner, there's Tavares, a few other guys up there, but I found this bit right here more interesting. We still don't know about Brad Marchand. He could be back with the Boston Bruins. I don't want to say I doubt it, but I really am uncertain about that. I still feel like it's very foggy. Some younger names like Nikolai Ehlers there, Brock Besser, 2 I find very interesting, and that's why I kind of pulled up the middle of the pack here. A lot of players who are very, very talented. Still deserving of a bigger contract of what they're going to be getting next season, but still don't know what's going to happen with them and their current team. So let me know on this graphic here. Who would you like to see in free agency, or anybody outside of this graphic, of course. But now we move on to the RFAs. I wanted to speak about these as well because Noah Dobson, Evan Bouchard, Keandre Miller, and Bowen Byram. 4 players that have really had a big cloud of uncertainty. With RFAs, they're going to be paid a lot in the fact of Noah Dobson, Bouchard, Keandre Miller. Bowen Byram as well is a bit of an uncertain one, but the top 3 mainly is what I'm looking at. I feel like Keandre Miller certainly could be back with the New York Rangers, knowing their offseason, similar plans to the Bruins. Evan Bouchard, when the Oilers are going to have the pay, they're probably going to do it. A lot of money, though, so it's uncertainty there. But when it comes to Noah Dobson, a very interesting 25-year-old that is seemingly going to be traded this offseason. I don't want to say any guarantees, but there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding him and the Islanders, the price, the way the Islanders are going. It could be an interesting look for the Boston Bruins. I don't want to say anything certain via trade, but it could be an option. The defense is pretty solid, as I mentioned, looking back at this one here with McAvoy, Jokiharju, and Andrew Peak on that right side, Lindholm, Zadorov, and Mason Lower on the left. But you never know. You don't want to pass up a guy like Noah Dobson when he becomes readily available. But that's all I got in this video. Let me know what you think about this stuff. Once again, thank you for this season. It's been very, very good seeing a lot of you guys here every single video in the comments below, discussing the videos and whatnot with me. And we're only getting started here for the offseason. This is arguably going to be bigger than the season. A lot of stuff coming. A lot of Bruins announcements are going to be coming soon, so we're going to be keeping you up to date with all of that here in this video. But like I said, that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. But I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.